We started Saturday morning. For Possum-Bourne, first car on the road meant that any corner could contain treacherous black ice.
It was a big concern. I was quite worried about it after we saw the roads the last couple of days, but in actual fact, when we got there, it had thawed out enough, and there was only 2 or 3 corners that were quite slippery from the snow, and you could see them before you got there, so it wasn't a big drama.
Bourne started the Saxon Safari 16 points behind Neil Bates. On special stage 1, the pair tied, and the scene was set for a monster clash in the forest. Stage 2, and Bourne opened a 2-second lead on Bates. Ed Ordinsky, the wild card in the Works Mitsubishi, was 10 seconds down with a slow leak in the left rear tyre. Tyres were an all-important factor. Bourne elected to run super soft Pirellis. It was to be a big plus. By stage 4, Bourne was 10 seconds ahead, and the opposition was getting desperate. On the superfast Styx River stage, Neil Bates cut a corner by just millimetres, and his Celica hit a post.
Been right 6. Oops. A bit tight there, buddy.
Yep.
The Celica had broken its steering rack, $8,000 component, and no replacement in sight.
So at the moment it's still going, but basically, you know, safety is pretty paramount, and we could continue tomorrow, but it could break completely.
Ordinsky finished Styx just 3 seconds behind Bourne. Bates slipped in more than a minute behind. Bourne finished day 1 50 seconds clear of Ordinsky. Bates another minute behind in 3rd place. On paper, Bates still leads the championship on points, 8 clear of Ordinsky, 10 ahead of Bourne. But at today's restart, Neil was on the trailer and Possum is en route to a clear lead. In the production car class, the tables turned for the Subaru team. It was Bourne's teammate Greg Graham who got a puncture, and defending champion Michael Guest who blasted to a class win.
Yeah, it's funny how things work out. Cox Harbour, it was our turn to have the problems, and this time Greg had a punch that's made our day a hell of a lot easier, and yeah, back in the lead of the championship, which is good.
And in the hard-fought Formula 2 category, there's been superb action as Dean Herridge in the Hyundai has taken a shock last stage victory from Toyota Corolla driver Simon Evans.
We're looking forward to going into Melbourne, hopefully with a lead in the championship, and we want to take it off.
Today's rally started mid-morning and goes till last light. Residual snow now not such a problem, but the black ice which forms in the protected gullies is proving an ongoing risk to the entire field. We'll have a full report on the Saxon Safari in next Sunday's RPM.
It's building. No, this is not Europe, but Hobart, Tasmania, where for the first time in years, drivers competing in the Australian Rally Super Series would face snow and ice. The snow, as well as a trip across Bass Strait, make the Saxon Safari a unique event in Australian rallying.
They deftly manoeuvre and
Great effort was made by organisers to clear the road for the reconnaissance the day before the Saxon Safari, allowing crews to drive over the course in road cars at normal speed. For many, it was the first time they had driven in snow, and for 2 young drivers from Western Australia, it was the first time they'd ever seen the white stuff.
No, that was actually my first time I'd seen it, the first time I'd driven on it. Yeah, it's quite an experience, really.
I'd never even seen snow, let alone drive on it. So this weekend's going to be very interesting from that point of view. Saw and drove on it in reconnaissance yesterday for the very first time. So as far as attacking 100% in the rally car, I have no idea what to expect.
The snow and ice would prove a challenge, even for the leading drivers.
I think we'll all find it very, very, very tough, you know. It's going to be one of those rallies that you'll either creep along and be slow, or you'll attack and take the risk of going off, you know, and I think the majority of the field, they rally to attack, so it'll be probably a gung-ho approach by everybody.
With so much snow and ice, many teams also chose to test their rally cars. It can't be said that the sponsor's product doesn't come in handy at the Saxon Safari. The three challengers for this year's title, Possum Bourne, Neil Bates and Ed Ordinsky, all took the opportunity to reheat themselves and talk about the challenge ahead. The morning of Heat 1 brought cold but clear conditions. The big talking point was tyres. Was there still snow on the course, which could mean a softer tyre, or had the snow gone away, making a harder tyre necessary? The choice would be critical.
It definitely makes the tyre choice difficult, and realistically you can only go with the instincts and hopefully you've got the right tyre on.
The problem was that the Group A machines all had plenty of power, maybe too much in conditions that required a cautious approach.
The engine comes on bang like that, and then there's no real mucking around waiting for anything to happen, so you've got to be really awake with it. It can bite you real quick.
After running a production class Mitsubishi Lancer in the first 2 rounds of the Super Series, Ed Ordinsky was still settling into his Rally Art Group A machine.
I think we've been naive to say I'm the same as Possum and Neil, who've had several years in their cars. I've had one rally in this car. But the Lancer is really well set up by Rally Art from their experience. The Yokohama tyres on it are well suited to the car, designed for it. So I've got everything in my favour.
The production class has turned into a great battle between defending champion Michael Guest in a Mitsubishi Lancer and the Subaru Impreza of Greg Graham.
You've got to get points wherever you can, and it's extremely important for us to win here because we dropped around in Queensland when we had a problem.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's great. It's what we're rallying about. Be nice and close and swap stage times. It's really good.
The smaller Formula 2 classes proved a big success in 1997. 5 competitive manufacturers have made for a close championship and plenty of action.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be a lottery out there. I think it's going to be whoever has the luckiest break. But no, I think this snow will definitely be an equaliser. I think it's just going to be to take every corner as it comes, and whoever ends out and has a good drive today will end up on top.
To start the Saxon Safari, a super special stage next to the Derwent Entertainment Centre. With no snow here, Possum Bourne and his Subaru Impreza and the Toyota Celica of Neil Bates tied with a time of 59 seconds. Ed Ordinsky was just 1 second behind.
The car feels good. Traction wasn't bad, so hopefully it'll be like that up there, but I'm just concerned about the snow and getting offline in the snow and that, so we'll just have to wait and see how it goes.
Ahead, another 5 stages in Heat 1, the icy conditions to prove a challenge for all teams. Patchy snow on special stage 2, Leeson's, meant drivers had to take a cautious approach. Even then, the surface was treacherous.
Crest along, 4-5 left, tightens.
The conditions meant drivers' skills were the key element. Possum Bourne won the stage by 2 seconds from Neil Bates. Ed Ordinsky a further 10 seconds back. For only the second time this year, Ordinsky had teamed with experienced veteran co-driver Fred Gacentis. The combination still being worked out during the event.
Yeah, not so like a robot, please, Freddie.
Okay.
Greg Graham took 2 heat wins at Coffs Harbour, but the Saxon Safari started poorly for the Subaru Impreza driver. A puncture on stage 3, losing him and co-driver Glenn McNeil 5 minutes.
Yep, 300 to easy right. Find some left button, change it. 300. Where? Easy right, kick it. No, just here. Okay.
It was only a K from the start, and we're going along, and it just started to feel loose, and I thought, you know, maybe it was the corner, but got worse and worse and worse, and there was a flat tyre in the end. I don't understand. We haven't hit anything, been in the middle of the road, like, I don't understand why it's gone down.
It was a welcome sign for Michael Guest, who'd experienced the same problem at Coffs Harbour. The Mitsubishi Lancer driver now led David West, who was running strongly in the production class, despite damaging the front of his car at a spectator point.
It was just really fast, and I turned in, the car turned in really well, and there's just a bit of a cut-off, and we just banged up the bank, that was all. Just one of those unfortunate things.
After more than half a year out of the sport, the Albury driver couldn't believe his luck. With leading privateer production rivals Stuart Reid and Miles Sandy, both non-starters, West was in outright contention. His task made even easier when Mark Haybiddle had an off.
Way off the road, just looked like a huge accident waiting to happen, so he just got back on the power and drove over all the rocks. Kept on going. This is about 140 k's an hour, I might add.
Drivers in the front-wheel drive Formula 2 class were finding the conditions a handful. Simon Evans was making the most of his opportunities in the ever-improving Toyota Corolla, and local knowledge was also proving an advantage.
And stop.
Whoa, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, great.
The Saxon Safari has some of the longest stages in the Australian Rally Super Series. At 33 kilometres, the Styx River Road is the longest in the event. It would also prove a pivotal moment in not only this event, but indeed the series. Fighting for outright leadership, Neil Bates miscalculated a corner and hit a pole.
Been right 6. Oops. Bit tight there, buddy.
Yep.
Into long left 6.
Don't make the damage, no.
The terminal damage to his steering rack could be seen by the angle on the Toyota Celica's steering wheel. Just a kilometre down the road, Bates spun.
The steering rack is actually cracked, so this could well be our last stage for the event. We don't actually have a spare and we can't fix it, so we just went through there and took it reasonably easy.
In the lead, Possum Bourne also had a moment. A succession of quick bends nearly brought his rally unstuck.
Careful.
It was pretty slippery in there, and I got out of hand. It got out of hand on me on a bunch of corners like this.
But the ever-smooth Ed Ordinsky was having dramas.
I had a puncture rear left.
Styx also claimed the Sydney pairing of Martin Lintott and Steve O'Brien-Pound, their production class Lancer crashing deep into a gully.
Basically, the notes came out well, and Martin had been driving all the corners very, very well leading up to that. It was pretty big, yeah, pretty big.
The fastest privateer at round 3 at Coffs Harbour, Graham Wise, started the Saxon Safari Rally slowly, losing the opening stage by 3 seconds to Graham Alexander. But on the slippery surface, Wise revelled, claiming 5 successive stage victories to beat Alexander by a minute and win the privateer section in Heat 1. Normally aggressive Michael Guest was wisely driving to the conditions. He took out Heat 1 in the production car class just under 4 minutes ahead of David West.
It's funny how things work out. Coffs Harbour, it was our turn to have the problems, and this time Greg's had a punch that's made out a hell of a lot easier, and yeah, back in the lead in the championship, which is good.
In Formula 2, high speeds were breeding unreliability. Ross McKenzie broke a fuel line and had a fire.
About 8k from them, we smelt fuel, and when we pulled into control, the car caught on fire. And it's broken the main fuel line again.
And Brett Middleton suffered transmission problems straight after finishing the final stage of the day.
Part of the fork has actually broken off the side, so when I went and changed gears, it actually broke at the same time and left the gear selector in neutral.
Despite an engine misfire, Dean Herridge took out Heat 1, 30 seconds ahead of Simon Evans, with Lee Peterson third.
And even though we're having these problems, we're nipping at their heels, and I thought that if we could get everything together, when things were running well, like in Styx, it was going really, really great. So we were sort of hoping that even at the end of the day, that we might be there somewhere.
Possum Bourne made it 5 straight heat wins in this year's Super Series. The Subaru driver beating Ed Ordinsky by 50 seconds, with Neil Bates a further minute behind.
it was time to use the head and just really feed yourself in, get a hang of it and go for it. To me, the other two guys had the pressure on them. They had to win if they want to win the championship, and I had to defend.
With the breakdown rate high, 10 drivers would not start day 2, among them Neil Bates and Coral Taylor. The Australian Rally Super Series features plenty of drivers and co-drivers wanting to make their mark in the sport. One of these is Sinead Byrne.
Got to brake early. Push and turn left 2, uphill, over gutter.
The Irish accent is not the only unique feature Sinead brings to the sport. She's also a paraplegic.
I think the thing is, a lot of people seem to think people in chairs, let them go, let them have some fun, and they can tend to be a bit patronising. I'm not here for you to patronise me. I'm here to give you, and every other competitor here, a run for the money.
It's ironic Sinead should be involved in motorsport. It was due to a car accident 7 years ago that she's now confined to a wheelchair.
I know exactly what a car does to you. I know what it's like to spend 4 months in hospital getting over something. But I feel so much safer in a rally car than I do in a road car.
One of Sinead's biggest fans is the man with the steering wheel in his hands, Abe Tuckett.
The notes that she reads are really good. Like, I found no problem with the notes at all. It's been really good.
Sinead is a calming influence on the 19-year-old, the youngest driver in the series, even when problems occur.
No. It's okay. Come on. Concentrate.
The pair is aiming to step up from their Suzuki Swift to a Group A Mitsubishi Lancer. But right now they have just one goal, winning the baby class in the 1997 Australian Rally Super Series.
So we've both got a lot to learn, but I believe that we'll get there. We've got the staying power and we'll still be here in the next few years, giving everybody a run for the money.
Right 4 over press becomes turn right 3. Got just over 3 Ks to go. Right 4 over press.
Day 2 once again brought cold and clear conditions, but Greg Graham's Subaru was steaming.
I just found a split in the return hose from the turbo, so it was leaking water. The split got quite bad, and we had to fix it ourselves, and being a non-mechanic type, it took a little bit longer than what it should have.
To make things worse, his car switched from four-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive only. But that wasn't the end of his problems.
No brakes. Oh, excellent. 60 short, K right. Nothing at all. Drive really, can you drive or not? No. Medium left here. Good on you.
He was passed in the stage by Graham Alexander and could see his production class hopes slipping away to rival Michael Guest. No such drama for Possum Bourne, the Subaru team leader consolidating his Heat 1 victory. Ed Ordinsky was chasing valuable points in the Super Series. In doing so, he was pushing Bourne all the way. Just behind the leaders, the privateers were charging. Graham Wise headed the pack, leading Graham Alexander. Production class driver David West and local expert Andrew Murphy into 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th respectively. The strong private result, an indication of the depth of talent in the championship field.
Conditions, it's been wetter and slipperier, and I don't mind those conditions, and it's bridged the horsepower gap a bit.
With his gearbox needing to make up for lost time, the Honda Civic driver flew through the next stage.
Yeehaw! Go back. Right 7 short over crest, absolute. Gate, intersection. Excellent.
That's so much fun down there.
Oh, that was ripperita.
The thing is we're all here to enjoy ourselves. At the end of the day, it's nice to win, but the most important thing is enjoy what we're spending all our money on.
For F2 Series leader Ross McKenzie, it was a case of deja vu. The broken fuel line that put the Daihatsu charade out in Heat 1 broke again in Heat 2.
We'll retire today,
broken fuel line that's cost us 10 minutes, and it puts us way out of F2 points. We've got to drop around, so it's best 4 out of 5 scores for the championship, and we're not going to score enough to better our worst round previous.
Not a good weekend either for Aussie class leader Steve Winwood. His Saxon Safari ended during the liaison on stage 3. A major mechanical failure forced co-driver Henry Lawson into the boot to keep fuel pumping as they limped into service. Winwood's withdrawal was a gift for Holden rival John Spencer. He claimed class victory on both days, but it is Winwood who remains at the head of the points table. Possum Bourne has won the first 3 stages, but a deep-seated problem in the gearbox forced his crew to make major repairs.
It just blew an O-ring on the oil feed supply for the hydraulics out of the pump for some particular reason, we're not sure, so the guys had to put a new fitting in there with the new O-rings, and it seems to be fine now.
With his rival vulnerable, Ed Ordinsky was on a charge, but hidden in the snow and mud on the side of the road was a rock, and the Rally Art driver found it.
And 6 left off camber, no worries.
Steering's gone.
Is it?
Yep.
And 6 left off camber.
I'm nursing this through. Actually, you'll see the damage now on that strut top. I hit a big rock in the long one and punched the suspension up under the bonnet.
In the one-make Silverstone Challenge, Jason Slott recorded his first win of the year. His major rival, Kirk Marks, had to retire from Heat 1 on Stage 1 when his co-driver, Peter Mahoney, succumbed to the flu.
He had a sort of a migraine problem in the morning, and he just was sick in the car and started blanking out, so we withdrew first thing in the morning.
Early on day 2, Dean Herridge had opened a substantial break on Formula 2 rival Brett Middleton, but a poor tyre choice on the long Styx and Medina stages dropped the Hyundai Coupe from a 20-second lead to a 5-second deficit.
We obviously made the wrong tyre choice there, but with no servicing in between, we had to take a punt, and obviously the wrong one.
With just the final Derwent Entertainment Centre special stage to go, Possum Bourne had the lead, but with the slippery conditions, anything could happen.
Wasted from dear comes the racer, he's a demon on wheels. He's a demon and he's gonna be chasing after someone.
It was not the type of entertainment Simon Evans was hoping to give the big crowd of 10,000 at the Hazel Brothers Super Special stage at the Derwent Entertainment Centre.
Front dug in and over we went. I can't believe that in the middle of the road. If I went off, I could say, yeah, my fault. It's my fault anyway.
But he was outdone by Silverstone Challenge driver Jason Slott.
Not a good one. Okay, everybody stand back, please, and make the officials will go. Officials go only over there, please.
Incredibly, Slott was able to restart the Corolla and take victory in the Silverstone Challenge.
Start the car. They want to finish this one. They're going to do better than Simon Evans and Joe Wick. They're actually going to drive it across the line.
Brett Middleton steered his Honda Civic to victory in Formula 2, 6 seconds ahead of the Hyundai Coupe of Dean Herridge.
We took a punt yesterday and made a bad tyre choice. Today we took a punt and it paid off, but unfortunately in Dean's case it worked against him.
A fantastic weekend for Michael Guest. 2 heat wins, some compensation for a non-finish in Queensland and a second placing at Coffs Harbour.
It's been a good result for us here. We needed it, especially after the last one.
Once again, Possum Bourne was unstoppable. The defending champion closing in on back-to-back titles in a series he describes as one of the best in the world.
To be a good rally driver, you have to cope with all the conditions that are thrown at you. You have to cope. And so far we've had 3 totally separate or different events, and I presume Melbourne will be different again, and that's the way it should be.
A solid weekend from Dean Herridge elevated him to the top of the Formula 2 standings. Brett Middleton lies second, with Ross McKenzie looking for answers in 3rd place. Michael Guest is back on top in the Group N production class standings. Greg Graham now 15 points behind. Ed Ordinsky still in line for a top 3 in the Group N standings, despite not having competed in a production vehicle since round 2 of the Super Series. For the first time in the series, Possum Bourne is now on top in the outright classification. But with Ordinsky and Bates forced to drop their lowest round scores, it looks more and more that Bourne has the ability to repeat as champion. The final round of the Australian Rally Super Series will be the Rally of Melbourne. And with bonus points on offer, Bourne cannot afford a mistake.
Week in Belgium, Team Toyota Europe's new World Rally car is set to take over from the twice World Championship winning Celica. To make its debut next month in the Rally of Finland in the hands of former World Champion Didier Auriol, the Corolla will come down under in force this November for Rally Australia. Its drivers? Well, one will be Auriol, and another, a man not unknown to many Australians.
I'm very, happy that we can give this chance to Neil in Australia, because also Toyota Australia has always been very supportive to us.
3 times Australian champion Neil Bates was in the Brussels Chateau for the launch, but it was still some sort of shock to be named in front of 300 of the world's media.
Obviously, I'm absolutely over the moon about it. The car looks absolutely great, and from all reports, it performs really well. So I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Bates' new Corolla gives an Australian their best shot ever at winning Rally Australia, an event usually dominated by the very top level of European professionals.
It'll definitely be a full-on drive where I'll just be part of TTE and just turn up and drive the car. So obviously I'm looking forward to that, and the part I'm most looking forward to is there's quite a bit of testing beforehand, so I'll be looking forward to that, to become familiar with the Corolla and hopefully get on the pace in the car.
The new Corolla is quick right out of the box. Limited by regulations to 300 horsepower, its 2-litre turbocharged engine nonetheless develops more than 500 Newton-metres of torque. It puts all that power to the ground through 4-wheel drive, flowing through this Formula One style 6-speed sequential gearbox.
I don't think before now that we would have been ready for what's happening now, so it's just through what's been happening with Australian rallying, and it's now that Australian rallying has got to a level where we're competing in World Championship cars and hopefully close to World Championship pace.
The big news is that after Rally Australia, Bates is likely to keep his car. It's a huge fillip for next year's Australian Rally Championship, and for Bates, who may also campaign the car in selected rounds of the Asia Pacific Championship. But the even bigger news is that Rally Australia could be a turning point in the career of Neil Bates. Team Toyota Europe is recruiting.
Now Marcus, we have Freddie, we have Neil Bates, we have, some young guys, and maybe there is a possibility. Personally, I'm always looking for that, because, we need the old drivers, but we also need the young and upcoming guys that put some new spirit into the sport.
Neil Bates has flown straight from Brussels to Auckland this weekend to practice for next week's World Rally Championship round, Rally New Zealand. Bates has the honour of giving Celica its swan song drive in a world title, and as one of the first to rally the new Corolla, his stocks are on the rise.
So I won 3 Australian Championships in a Celica, and but looking here at the Corolla, it's hard not to be excited about the Corolla, and it's a very exciting looking car, and I just can't wait to get in there.
1997 has seen the start of a new era in Australian rallying. The Australian Rally Super Series has created the closest and most exciting title chase in 30 years of Australian competition. Going into the final round of the Super Series, the Rally of Melbourne, 3 drivers in 3 different makes of cars could still win the title, separated by just 10 points. Defending champion Possum Bourne had missed round 1 in Perth, but the Subaru Impreza driver had been unstoppable since. 6 straight heat wins, giving him a narrow lead.
It's a bit tricky because now we're in a really good position. We can't afford it for it to slip, you know. We've done all the hard work. Now we have to get stuck in and just finish it off properly.
3-time Australian champion Neil Bates took 2 heat wins in Perth. The Toyota Celica driver still in major contention.
In rallying, anything can happen, and he only needs one little problem, and Ed and I'll be there ready to bounce on him.
Ed Ordinsky has been Mr. Consistency in 1997. Despite competing in a production class Mitsubishi Lancer in both Western Australia and Queensland, a string of 2nd and 3rd placings had put him in a strong position to take the title.
Well, the results we got in the Group N, were really remarkable, and I just can't say how fortunate I feel to be where I am.
Ordinsky is now using a Rally Art prepared Evolution 3 Lancer, one generation off World Championship equipment, but like grandfather's axe, containing many contemporary updates. The Rally of Melbourne was to decide all categories. In the production class, Mitsubishi Lancer driver Michael Guest led the way.
I always like to win. I don't think anybody in the top end of any sport goes there to come second, put it that way.
But unlike last year when the Newcastle Flyer had dominated, this season has seen a great battle with the young Subaru Impreza driver Greg Graham.
I want to win Group N. I want to finish the Super Series on a high note. And if we get the championship, well, that'd be spot on. But
the fledgling Formula 2 category has been a big success in 1997. 3 teams could take the title in Melbourne. Ross Mackenzie in a Daihatsu Charade started the year with 3 heat wins, but mechanical problems in Coffs Harbour and Tasmania had allowed his rivals to close.
Yeah, we're still in the hunt. We've had a couple of shocking rounds, but we reckon we can come back, and we've taken the car back home to Perth and done our homework, and we've got a real good chance.
Co-leader in the Super Series Formula 2 class, Dean Herridge, came to Melbourne needing to continue his charge in the Hyundai Coupe.
It's going to have to be 100% or 110% from Special Stage 1. There's no chance of resting here. It's just first across the line is going to win.
6 points behind the leading pair, but very much in striking distance, was Honda Civic driver Brett Middleton.
Obviously, the main thing is Ross Mackenzie in the Charade and Dean in the Hyundai, but our Honda's proved pretty reliable recently, so we're hoping to capitalise on that.
Rallying has come out of the forests and into the major population centres. The start of Rally of Melbourne was in the middle of the city, and a record field of 80 cars crossed the starter's ramp. Ed Ordinsky led the field away. The real competition would begin next morning. Drivers to face 2 100-kilometre heats in the Yarra Valley around Domain Shandon, northeast of Melbourne. From the opening special stage, Mount Slide, Neil Bates and Coral Taylor were on maximum attack. The Toyota Celica pair beat Possumbourne and Craig Vincent by 1 second. Ed Ordinsky and Fred Gacentis a further 3 seconds back. The long special stage 2, Sylvia Creek, featured some of the fastest rally roads in the country. Speeds over 200 kilometres per hour, taking engines to their rev limiters.
Left, 600 past finish to stop. 2:06. Haven't seen that for a while. Quick in there.
At the end of the stage, Bourne grabbed 4 seconds back and now led the rally. 2 stages later, his Heat 1 hopes would be dashed. A puncture dropping the Subaru 90 seconds behind Bates.
Puncture.
Have we?
Yeah. How long we got to go?
10K, 12Ks. Short.
Yeah, we got a puncture. We drove 10Ks on it, and it's just better to be careful and not break something.
In the production class, Michael Guest held the early advantage over Greg Graham's Subaru, but thick smoke from the Mitsubishi Lancer's exhaust was obvious trouble.
Oh, we've burned a oil seal on the turbo, it seems. So we'll try and get through this 20k stage, and then we got half an hour service, and we'll try and change the turbo.
We've only got to win one heat to get the championship, so we'll have to go flat out tomorrow and try and win a heat to get it, I think. So.
The turbo problems dropped guests some 6 minutes behind Graham. He wasn't the only one to lose time. Fellow Lancer driver Graham Wise struggled to see through the thick smoke.
It was really hard to see through, and the fumes were terrible.
After a class win at the Rally of Scotland, Marty Beckton returned to the Australian Rally Super Series in his production Proton Wira. But a near off suggested something was not right.
Okay. 150.
In the chaos, co-driver Ado Asawa lost his position on the pace notes. The problem rectified just in time.
700.
Yeah, maybe.
And 200. Yeah, we got a 7 light double Titans.
Oh, lucky, good timing.
80, 7 left into 6 right.
The battle for Formula 2 was on. Brett Middleton in a Honda Civic and the Hyundai Coupe of Dean Herridge swapped stage times throughout Heat 1. Frustrated, Ross McKenzie slipped behind after losing his rear brakes. And the Nissan Sunny of Lee Peterson left its transmission out on the course.
We've been running a standard gearbox all year and regularly rebuilding it, but the standard gearbox isn't up to the horsepower that this generates. We really need a proper one.
Amongst the privateers, a bright new star has emerged. Young Victorian Cody Crocker was the fastest in the Group A section. He was also pressing the big teams, finishing Heat 1 in 5th place outright. Fellow Victorian Mike Reeves and his Mitsubishi Galant VR4 finished behind the Subaru Liberty, with Super Series regular Graham Wise recovering from guest smoke to finish 3rd. Only 11 seconds separated the 3 drivers at the end of Heat 1. Miles Sandy in a Possum-born prepared Impreza was in 10th, conserving his car for an all-out assault on the New South Wales title.
It's always getting better, always doing a little bit more to it, and yep, I'm very pleased with it.
In the production section of the privateers, Albury's David West was a clear winner. He also finished the day 2nd outright in the production class. Mitsubishi Lancers dominated, with Robert Ogilvie 2nd, Paul Kennedy 3rd. Neil Bates was not prepared to back off. It was likely to be his last drive in the Toyota Celica. Bates' lead extended after Ed Ordinsky spun, and Possum-born settled into 3rd, the defending champion prepared to consolidate his position in pursuit of his 2nd successive title. Greg Graham and Glenn McNeil were charging. Each stage was putting them closer to major contention in the National Championship, a situation which had seemed distant at the start of the event. With Michael Guest and Mark Stacey 6th, Graham and Guest went into day 2 tied for the series lead.
Well, it's certainly going to make it interesting for tomorrow. It means it's just a flat-out battle tomorrow, so it's good.
It depends on the weather, like it's going to rain. I'm a bit of a mudlark, so that might be, in our favour a little bit too. But so no, we'll push hard from the word go, no doubt about that.
In the Formula 2 section, Brett Middleton was on the edge. Points leader Dean Herridge was pushing hard in response, maybe a little too hard.
Okay, bring it around.
Things are so tight, and to make a mistake like that, especially so close, is, real disappointing.
Brett Middleton and Linda Long's victory in Heat 1 put them on equal terms with Dean Herridge and Lyndall Drake, as well as Ross McKenzie and Tony Brandon for Sunday's 2nd heat. The closest point situation on record in a national title.
If I enjoy the road, obviously I drive better, I push myself a lot harder, and sure, 9 tenths, 9.5 tenths.
Up front, it was Neil Bates and Coral Taylor, the Toyota Celica pair driving hard and entertaining the large crowd which had flocked to the forests. Bates' title hopes were very much alive.
we've got the ride set up for this event. Maybe some other event it wouldn't suit, but certainly the car's handled better today than what it has all year, so I'm extremely happy with it.
A classic end of the Super Series was now on. Neil Bates could challenge Possum Bourne. Michael Guest would need victory in the production class to beat Greg Graham. And Brett Middleton, Dean Herridge or Ross McKenzie could all win Formula 2. The Australian Rally Championship is now recognised as the toughest domestic competition in the world. It's not only the vast distances teams have to travel to compete in each round of the Rally Super Series and the Manufacturers Championship, it's also the intense level of competition. Australian expertise has been recognised by the big overseas teams. Neil Bates will drive for Toyota's official World Rally Championship team, Toyota Team Europe, at both Rally Indonesia and Rally Australia. Bates will steer Toyota's new weapon, the Corolla World Rally car.
Obviously, I'm absolutely over the moon about it. The car looks absolutely great, and from all reports, it performs really well. So I'm looking forward to it immensely.
He won't be the only Australian to drive for one of the big teams. Ed Ordinsky will join world champion Tommy Mäkinen and Richard Burns as part of Mitsubishi's Rally Art attack on Rally Australia.
It's been a long time coming, and I don't think there's ever been a period in Australian rallying when there has been that opportunity for Australian drivers to have a go in a World Championship rally in Group A factory cars.
I think it's going to be good because he brings a lot of positive publicity to the team, and he's always done extremely well on Rally Australia, and Ed's a nice guy.
Overseas action is on the cards for Marty Becton. A successful drive at the Rally of Scotland could see him return to the United Kingdom.
Rally Australia as an option, and maybe Canberra, but I'd say I'll be doing a little bit of flying. I want to go back to the UK and try and sort something out over there.
The level of Australian rallying will increase in 1998. Neil Bates will run the Corolla World Rally car in the national title, and Possum Bourne could run an Impreza World Rally car to match him.
Now that Neil's got a World Rally car, I mean, what I would love to do is turn up next with a Subaru World Rally car and we really kick the old championship along, and if Ed could get one as well, it'd be fantastic.
Add to this the fact that Greg Graham, Michael Guest and Dean Herridge have all had international experience. It now seems likely a driver from Australasia will be part of a World Rally Championship team before the end of the decade. Wet conditions met competitors for Sunday's second heat of the Rally of Melbourne. Bates and Ordinsky tied on stage one. Bourne, who changed the turbocharger overnight, was 1 second behind. But on stage two, Bourne opened a 7-second lead over Bates, Ordinsky 6 seconds further back. To his surprise, Bourne bettered his heat one time on the blindingly fast Sylvia Creek stage, despite the wet conditions.
It was quicker than yesterday. You joking? Nah, 3 seconds quicker.
On special stage 3, Neil Bates' hopes of a 4th Australian title ended. His Toyota Celica went from 4-wheel drive to front-wheel drive only.
Looks like it's a centre diff, and it would take us probably an hour and a half to pull the gearbox apart and fix it. So basically I'll have to continue on in front-wheel drive.
It basically just loses drive, and you can't go into the corners as fast because you haven't got the drive to pull you out.
Under immense pressure, Michael Guest jumped out of the blocks in the production class. He led rival Greg Graham by 17 seconds after the opening 3 stages, the Subaru Impreza not running to its potential.
Mike was obviously driving really well, but I don't know, the car just doesn't seem to pull. We've been talking to just people that have come up to me and who've been watching, and they said the same. It just doesn't look like it's doing it, so I don't know.
Marty Becton enjoyed a better day. The Proton Wira running more consistently, just behind the leaders Guest and Graham. The battle in the privateer section, extremely tight. Miles Sandy, Warren Tuckett and Mark Griffith were all outgunned by the spectacular style of Cody Crocker.
Yeah, fast, very fast going down to the end. And we braked too late again for the Don Road spectator corner, but it was all right. We got through it.
Crocker finished 20 seconds ahead of Mike Reeves, with Graham Wise a further 42 seconds behind. For Wise, another top placing in the privateer class gave him honours as the leading low-budget runner of the Super Series. In the production class category of the privateers section, David West once again demonstrated that with major backing, he could mix it with Guest and Graham.
The conditions are very trying, and you have to be very, very careful because 1 minute you've got a good grip and then you're understeering, so it's a bit hard to tell.
He beat home Paul Kennedy, with Robert Ogilvie finishing a consistent event with third placing.
50. Left 100.
It was a frustrating rally for Steve Winwood in the Aussie class Falcon. After a non-finish on day 1, the Falcon driver had brake problems on day 2 to finish behind his rival John Spencer in the Holden Commodore. Spencer winning the personal battle between the Australian-built big cars. The final round of the One Make Silverstone Challenge saw another great fight. It also brought another new winner, Joe Cadman, who took victory on day 1. On day 2, it was Jason Slott.
Done a lot of homework and tried to get used to the car, and yeah, I'm having a ball down here. It's great.
The Silverstone Challenge Series went to Kirk Marks.
So it came down to the line with both Dale Payne and myself in for the championship, and if we both had problems, Jason Slott would have won it. So it's been a fantastic competition.
In Formula 2, Ross McKenzie was fighting back. The Daihatsu Charade matched times with the Honda Civic of Brett Middleton and Dean Herridge in the Hyundai Coupe. A slip-up by any of the three drivers would cost the title. Up front, Possum Bourne's comfortable lead over Ed Ordinsky was evaporating. The usual smooth approach by Ordinsky had been thrown out the window as he attacked the stages. The Mitsubishi Lancer driver took an amazing 10 seconds from the Subaru Impreza to close to within 3 seconds. But Ordinsky's confidence got the better of him, and he spun off the course. Possum Bourne hurtled down the same section of road, and with spectators pushing Ordinsky back on the track, the two-time Asia-Pacific champion had to call on all his skills to avoid colliding with the Lancer.
I thought I'd give up. I didn't know whether we were on the road or not. Very long. All right, opens and closes. Okay.
Bourne finished the second-last stage of the event ahead of Ordinsky, virtually guaranteeing him and co-driver Craig Vincent their second straight title.
Wicked. Awesome. Well done, bud. A rally and a championship. Massive. To go. Yeah.
Ordinsky's spin should have given Neil Bates second place, but Heat 2 simply wasn't the Toyota Cruise day.
We've got a flood as well. Well, I figured things wouldn't get much worse.
Bates lost time and placings. On the last Forest stage, a concern was that Michael Guest was catching him. Bates kept his eyes on the rear-view mirror and crossed the line just as Guest caught him, the production car glued to his rear bumper. There was confusion at the control point, with officials trying to separate the times of Bates and Guest. Greg Graham had been slicing into Michael Guest's lead. Officials gave Graham a time 3 seconds quicker than Guest.
So going to the last stage, we're 4 seconds in front of Greg.
With one final 800-metre stage still to run at Domaine Shandon, and off in the production category would cost the title. And it was almost as close in the Formula 2, with Brett Middleton holding a small advantage over Dean Herridge. On the limit driving by Brett Middleton would give him and Linda Long victory in the Formula 2 category at the Rally of Melbourne and the Super Series.
In all the cars that we've been in the past and I've driven and been involved in, never ever have I ever driven one as fast as what I have today.
Dean Herridge finished the year in equal second place with Ross McKenzie. With the production championship on the line, Michael Guest and Greg Graham tied the final stage. After 10 heats and more than 1,000 kilometres, Guest was to claim his second straight production car title by just 4 seconds.
Like, I drove really, really hard, especially on the first 2 stages this morning, and we got a good buffer on Greg, and then we sort of played the game till the end, and to win by 4 seconds, not just for this heat, but for a championship, is just fantastic competition.
A solid year for Paul Kennedy was rewarded with third position in the production standings. ahead by more than 2 minutes for Possumbourne. The final stage was a chance to have some fun.
45 left over finish, 40, 3-4 right over finish, sorry.
I mean, it's just realisation of the dream that we started out at the year with.
You know, Neil set the goalpost here and he's won 3, so maybe it's an opportunity for us to have another go next year.
Possumbourne and Craig Vincent, the champions. Ed Ordinsky and Fred Gacentis in second place. Neil Bates and Coral Taylor in third. With the Super Series decided, now comes the tougher rallies. The Australian Rally Manufacturers Championship features API Rally Australia and the grand final, FAI Rally of Canberra.
In front of him.
Yeah, it was getting a bit close for comfort at the end, but it worked out right.
Our former world champion, Jack Brabham, always used to say, win at the lowest speed. Was that, in fact, the case with you today?
Not really. I wouldn't say we were going at a low speed in the last stage. It was 100%, as quick as we could go.
Colin McRae, congratulations. The champagne awaits you.
Thank you.
Not only the champagne awaits, but of course an anxious time for Colin McRae heading into the 14th and final round of the World Rally Championship. Yes, victory today, but he could have done with a little help from rival drivers to put some points between he and Tommy Mackinnon in API Rally Australia, but at least for now he can celebrate what has been a marvellous event for him. And the champagne looks a little tame, Barry, but not now.
Yeah, still give you a bad headache though. Nicky Brest, his co-driver, was saying that he's made a better driver out of Colin in that he's calmed him down a bit. You know, he used to get a bit typical Scotch temper, I guess, and calmed him down a bit. Great team, you know, really. They've done good. You saw them this weekend. I mean, they tried really hard, and at the end of the day, they got what they deserved.
So a British victory in API Rally Australia. Nothing left for McRae to do right here except to celebrate in the most important style and something that many of the crowd here have come to see. Although after a couple of donuts, they won't be looking at much at all. As Forest Place will be filled with smoke and a new set of tyres will be required. Great result for Subaru, still alive, and now they have to work out some strategy. They're going to take 3 cars into the final round of the World Rally Championship, and of course 2 of those will be simply there to help Colin McRae secure the World Championship. And of course, as we mentioned, it's quite possible that Tommy Mackinnon doesn't finish in England, but it's a big ask to win 2 rallies in a row. Let's ride now for the last time in Australia this year with the API Rally Australia champion Colin McRae in the middle of Forest Place in front of a very happy crowd.
Oh, how good is that?
Colin McRae, API Rally Australia champion, painting the town black. In a moment, we'll cross back to John Smales, who will be with the second place driver this weekend.
And the man who's come second in API Rally Australia and is now only 1 point away from victory in the World Championship, Tommy Mackinnon for Rally Art Mitsubishi. Tommy, just a second.
Yeah, the problem is, you know, poor old Saints this year, he's had a lot of reliability problems with the Ford, and I don't know whether that's the reason he's changing manufacturers next year, but you'd have to go a long way to anybody to say that anybody's a lot better than Saints. He's good stuff on it all round.
Tommy Mackinnon, Seppo Harayan, about to delight the crowd here once again in Forest Place.
that's about how he's going to be feeling at 3 o'clock in the morning after all the champagne and stuff.
And of course we have from Britain to Finland to France, our third place getter in API Rally Australia.
And Team Toyota.
Langley Park Superstage stamped his authority on this event and stayed consistently.
That Colin McRae had this weekend was meeting Barry Sheen. He really said he wanted